Hi and welcome. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sojo, and we're here for part 5 of my completed quilts trunk show. Now I show about 10 quilts at a time from quilts that I have just around my house. So this is number 41, and the name of this pattern was Diamond Trellis by Brenda Plaster, and I got this from a magazine, from Quiltmaker magazine. It was the November-December 2014 issue. Now it was quilted with a paisley pantograph, and we will flip it over and take a look at the back. And that is what the back of that quilt looks like. Now this pattern came from my Sew Sampler box, and it was called Sprouts. And I quilted it on the long arm with a pantograph called Petalism. We will flip it over and take a look at that back. So there is the back, and according to that label there in the corner, it was finished in 2019. And this is number 43. The name of this pattern was called 4-Yard Frenzy by Sew in the Good Life. And it was quilted with a Whipsy quilt pantograph on the long arm, and it has metallic thread through it. Can't really see the metallic on the front because the fabric has metallic in it, but when we flip it over you can definitely see that metallic flap on the back, or the metallic thread on the back. So there is the back of that quilt, and according to the label in the corner, this was also completed in 2019. Now these next two are two that I just completed this week, and I just showed on my weekly update. So this first one is number 44, and the name of this quilt pattern was Opaca Anyone from So Fresh Quilts. Now that pattern actually didn't have quite as many, so I made a few. Now they call them opacas. I'm calling them llamas, but hey, you know, whatever. But it was quilted with a llama pantograph. And we had Minky on the back. The front was made with all flannels. We will turn it over and take a look at the back. So there is the back with those llamas in there. And this is number 45. This was a pattern called Winter Winds, and it was in the McCall Quilting magazine, the January and February 2018 issue. And the pattern was written by Scott Flanagan, and it was quilted with a paisley pantograph. Now, I have also showed this one a couple times on my channel because this was in my 200 plus quilt top series when it was just a quilt top, and then after I quilted it, I showed it again on my channel, and I just showed it on my weekly updated again this past week because I just finished the binding. But now it's all done. And there is a look at that back of the quilt. Now the long arm I use is not computerized, so this is all hand done with a laser. Now the name of this pattern is Star Flowers, and it was from McCall's Quick Quilts magazine, and it is from the August-September 2014 issue. Now this was actually made from scrap fabrics that I had because I used to garment sew, and I used to make a lot of like sundresses and that sort of thing for my daughter when she was younger. So all of this is the leftover pieces I had from those dresses, and I used it to put it in this quilt. Now it was quilted with a flower pantograph, and I'll flip it over and take a look at the back. And that is the back. Now there is not a label on this one, so I don't know when I finished it. Now the rest of these quilts all have to do with my daughter. Either I made it for her when she was younger, or they're currently in her room. So this is number 47, and this was made from flannel fabrics. And the name of the pattern was Roll of Stamps, and it was from the Seemingly Scrappy book by Rebecca Silball. And it just put a fleece backing on it, and it was stitched in the ditch. And this one was made towards the beginning of when I started quilting. And that's just the back, where it was quilted with stitching in a ditch along those blocks. Now this is number 48. This was just a butterfly rag quilt that I had made my daughter when she was little. I had made her the butterfly, and from the last part you would have seen on part 4, I had made my son a dinosaur. And this is number 49. Now this is another Bargello style quilt where I had used a tutorial from Eleanor Burns to make this. Now, as I had said before, I had made several quilts using this pattern. Now it has fleece on the back, and it was quilted with a loopy line pattern that I had done on the domestic. We'll flip it over and take a look at the back. So that's just the fleece that was on the back of it. Now this is number 50, and this pattern was called Personal Library Quilt by Crimson Tate. And it has another fleece backing on it, and it was quilted on the domestic with a loopy lines patterns. Now, a funny story is, I don't remember if it was this quilt or the Bargello one that I showed before, but I had been quilting this on my domestic. And I had my quilting gloves, and I was quilting it. Well, I ended up sewing over the gloves and sewed it to the quilt. So I was kind of stuck because that hand was quilted down, and I couldn't reach my scissors because it was on the side where my hand was quilted. So it took several minutes, and I'm yelling for my daughter to come help to give me scissors so I could try to cut my glove away from the quilt to kind of free myself. Well, then in the process, after several minutes, I realized that I quilted my glove, but there isn't any pain in my finger, and there isn't any blood. So I didn't quilt through my finger. So all I really needed to do was slide my hand out of the glove, which I did, and then I was able to cut the glove off. But at least I think it's funny, because I really thought I was trapped on the quilt and couldn't figure out how to get myself away from it. But anyway, let's take a look at the back. And this is just the back of that quilt. And according to the label, it was completed in 2018. Now, I had made this for my daughter because she's an avid reader and she loves reading. She reads all the time. Okay, so that's the end of part 5. Join me next time when we'll look at 10 more quilts. I still have quite a few to go. Till then, bye.